Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's your boy, Kuroyuki ESO, and I've got a fun little video for you today, but before we hop on into it, I do want to say Happy New Year, folks. 2021 has come, and 2020 is now nothing more than a bad memory, so I hope everyone's having a good year so far. I know I am. Hope you had a good holiday season. I did. I got a new mic. I don't know if it sounds good or bad, Hey, what's going on? Hey, new mic, yeah, hype. Anyway, today I've decided to throw together a solo PvP tier list for you guys. I know, it's been done a good few times already, but I've looked around lots of the other lists, I've watched the videos, I've read the forums, yada yada, and I just don't really agree with many of the lists on my own. They just don't really... I don't want to say they're wrong objectively, because, everyone's got their opinions, and I just feel like I want to share my opinion and give my take on it, so that's what I'm going to do. I plan on doing it just a little differently than some of the others that I have seen. I'm planning on coming from a perspective of the classes being built around max stats, as opposed to things like procs. So I'll be basing these rankings off of their class kits, as well as their ability to utilize other skill lines, but when it comes to the gear, I'm not really taking that too much into consideration. Now, I know that procs and such are the meta, and taking procs out of the equation will dramatically lower the standing of a lot of different classes, but that's just kind of the list I want to make, analyzing the classes at the very base level. So, just wanted to get that out before any of the PCEU guys come over here and start reading in my comments, because I know they will, because they're going to be like, but procs, if you're not using procs, you're using a non-optimized build. Yeah, I know, okay? That's fine. That's what we're going to do. So yeah, this is going to be objective. This will be my opinion, so if you don't agree, please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy this video, consider leaving a like, or even subscribing for more content in the not-so-distant future. And without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into this list. We're going to start and just do them from left to right here, starting with MagDK. By the way, just in case this looks a little confusing to you guys, the ones that aren't green are the magic variants, okay? And the ones that are green, that's all mag stuff. Or that's all Stam stuff. So that's what this is. So starting off, we've got MagDK. Now MagDK, I feel like, is in a very interesting spot in this patch, but when you're not taking procs into consideration, MagDK is one of those classes that really takes a nosedive. I think MagDK has really solid pressure when it comes to their dots, and they have really good healing now, with lots of the changes, and the buff to Coag. I don't remember when that was, but whenever it was, it absolutely fucking cracked out MagDK for staying alive. So yeah, there's that. They got good dot pressure, they got good healing, but the thing is, their burst is really lacking. I know a lot of people will say that they've got the Molten Whip. That thing hits really fucking hard. It does. It slaps like a train, but once you use it, it's gone. You have to build it up again, and on a class that can be so easily dodged or blocked or just avoided and mitigated in so many different ways, I don't think it is the best burst tool. Also, their primary ultimate, is not the best. It hits respectably hard, but it doesn't really hit much harder than any of the other good ultimates, or harder at all, actually. The shield it gives is a nice bonus, but it just doesn't have the burst potential of, say, Take Flight or a Dawnbreaker. And, let's see, what else do they have? Their other ultimate that they usually use, the fucking Standard. That's a really good ultimate, okay? It's AoE, it's dot, it applies Defile, but with the nerf to Defile, it's not as oppressive as it used to be, and it's just more dot damage, so a class that can purge, or a class that has good healing, or just really good mitigation, isn't going to feel too much pressure from MagDK, so I feel like it's got a lot going for it, and it is good, especially if you build it up with procs, but I'm going to have to put MagDK in C. Next up is Magicka Templar. If you guys know me, you know that I play Magicka Templar all the time. This is like my main class, and makes it really hard for me to say that I think it kind of sucks. The healing is not the best. It's got an 8% bonus to healing through Minor Mending, but lots of classes get that kind of stuff pretty easily. MagDK even gets a bonus 12% from having their armor on. I've got classes like Warden that gets a major. You've got Nightblade that gets crit healing, which can be forced on demand, so there's that. Their burst heal is extremely expensive. It doesn't heal you for all that much anymore. It's not as strong as it used to be, especially with the small healing changes. And when it comes to healing, Magplar healing is quite depressing, actually. It's really hard to get off back bar if you're not using something like rapid regen. If you are using rapid regen, then you're sacrificing either damage or survivability to have a resto staff on, and it just really forces Magplar into a rough spot. Now, their damage output is actually really solid. You don't have to build too much into damage to get a lot of damage on a Magplar. They do have a lot of AoE pressure when built right, but they don't have any good burst abilities anymore. They have Dark Flare, which has a long channel time, which can be bashed, and it doesn't hit that hard, and again, Major Defile was nerfed, so it's not as useful as it once was. Crescent is a solid ultimate, but with the cast time, it misses more often than it did before, and it was already missing quite often for some reason. I don't know what that's all about, but yeah. And let's see, they got Purifying Light is useless now, absolutely dog shit skill. No one should ever use that skill if they love themselves. So that's just completely taken out of the equation. And then you've also got to think about, what's it called? Burning Light, that's a non-factor anymore. So all the burst from Magplar is kind of gone. And it really just comes down to sustained pressure, kind of like MagDK. Now the difference is that I do have a strong class Execute, another thing that I forgot to say about MagDK. That really makes MagDK feel kind of weak, because they don't have a class Execute. So it's kind of hard. Like, I want to say Magplar is, it's either B or C, but because of the shit healing, has no mobility, the utility of it as a solo player is really low. I'm just gonna have to put Magplar in C as well. It hurts my heart to do it, but you know, it is what it is. Now, next up is Magicka Sorcerer. Now, personally, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I think MagSorc is an A tier class, and I'll go ahead and explain why. One, it's got mobility. It gets major movement speed buff from its armor buff. It gets streak slash ball of lightning to blink out of bad situations, or you know, dash into the fight if that is what you want to do. And so, you know, it can be in and out of fights really quick and easy. It's got solid sustain. It's got lots of utility with things like Ball of Lightning, with things like Dark Conversion. You can stack ridiculously high shields with the class if you want to. You can even have a shield and heavy armor if you want to. It's got pets for free line of sight. It's got Overload for a cheesy desyncy ultimate that hits really fucking hard. Pair it with Meteor and Streak, and you can burst entire groups really quickly. It's got absolutely ridiculous burst from range, and this class is really, really good. Now, I know MagSorc mains that are out there right now are going to say that MagSorc sucks in this meta, and in certain situations it definitely can because of people running higher health and more healing now, but even still, when it comes to those, you know, most fights that we get as 1vx players, MagSorc has the ability to absolutely delete people from 50 feet away, while still being mobile, still keeping themselves alive, sustaining themselves just fine. So I think MagSorc is a fucking powerhouse, and with some slight adjustments it could easily be an S tier, but it's just missing a few things. You know, it needs, I think, a little more sustained pressure. So people like to run things like Elemental Weapon or Force Pulse or whatever to get, you know, a spammable. But honestly, it's a really strong class, and if you don't think it's a really strong class, then personally I think you're wrong, but I'm willing to hear your argument on that. Now, next up is Stamina Nightblade, easy S tier. That is if you're playing the typical Stamina Nightblade playstyle. You know, you're rolling, you're cloaking, you're hitting people from stealth. This thing is super, super good for solo play, and there are a few reasons why. One, they are extremely mobile. Typically, Nightblades will use a bow, so they get the movement speed buff from that. So that's one way. It's a Stam class that usually runs medium armor, so it's got, you know, more dodging, more sprinting ability. So there's that. It's got Cloak to, you know, just turn off the enemy's eyelids real quick and disappear completely, free line of sight. You have Shade, so you can just fucking move yourself from one side of the earth to the other at the press of a button. So it's extremely mobile, very hard to catch if you're a good Nightblade. And then, when it comes to its offense, it can absolutely fucking nuke a health bar from Cloak. Like, one heavy attack into a surprise attack, or a bow, or an incap, any of that shit will fucking decimate people. It absolutely rips health bars, and it does. I mean, with the 40k health meta that we're in, of course, just like any other burst class, it's gonna be a little rougher to put people down. But if you execute your burst very flawlessly, you're gonna be able to kill many, many more people. You don't have to work for kills anywhere near as hard as you do on lots of other classes. It's just kind of free, you know? I can go into a fight on my Magplar and be like, okay, if I put a shit ton of pressure into that guy, I can kill him. But on the Nightblade, I'm like, okay, I can walk in cloaked, no one's gonna know I'm even there, and then I can just fucking blast this guy before he even knows what's going on, and I'm good. So they got a lot of mobility, they get free crits, they get decent healing thanks to their crit healing buff, they get decent tankability if you want it through things like Dark Cloak if you don't want to be a Cloak Nightblade. Personally, I think going Dark Cloak and being a Brawler Nightblade is weaker than a Cloaking Nightblade, because it lacks some of the Nightblade's potential with things like guaranteed crit from Cloak, and just being able to abuse Vampire for even more weapon spell damage, that kind of stuff. But all in all, I think this is definitely one of, if not the best class for solo PvP, especially for beginners, and for long-time players as well. Like, it's got a high skill ceiling and pretty low skill floor. Or pretty high skill floor, I mean. So yeah, and then next up is Stamblade's sad little brother, Magblade. I don't think Magblade's in a great spot right now. I'm gonna put it in C. And I'll go ahead and tell you why. The healing is nothing compared to Stamblade. Stamblade has Vigor, they have Rally. Both of those are absolutely awesome heals. Magblade has Dark Cloak if they want it, which isn't that great unless you're stacking 40k HP. They can use Rapid Regen, which is good. You know, it's a very good heal, but there's no other kind of supplemental healing to back them up. They could use Burst Heals from Resto Staff. Not the best. They do get some healing from their Spammable. Again, not that great. And even then, the fact that they have to run Rapid Regen or stack a bunch of health really pigeonholes them into a couple certain different kinds of playstyles. Like, a Stamina Nightblade can mix it up, do Sword and Board in 2H, or fucking bow. There's a lot of different ways that you could play Stam Nightblade, and you still have Vigor as an option no matter what your bar setup is, and there's burst heals on just about every stamina-based weapon right now. So you're forced into playing with the Resto Staff on the Magblade, which really limits its build diversity, which sucks. It's one of my least favorite things, and I feel like that alone knocks it down a point, because I would love to see viability of like a Sword and Board Inferno Staff Magblade. That'd be super cool, but there's not enough healing in the world to make that even work. So, yeah. What else about it? Magblade has melee ultimates when it is supposed to be used at range. Typically, you could do melee Magblade, but that's just like a sad, depressing Stamblade. At that point, you might as well just play Stamblade, because you'll be much better off. What else about Magblade? It's got... does it even have a good ultimate? No, it doesn't. You have Meteor on Magblade if you want to, but you don't have a ranged stun that is worth anything. At least you could use Clench, but that's like what, 6-8 meter range, so you'd have to be inside the enemy's kill box anyway. So yeah, when it comes to ultimates, they're kind of shit out of luck there. Lots and lots of dead skills, things that used to be really good and are just useless now. If you play Magblade, you know exactly what skills I'm talking about. Really sucks. They don't have a lot of utility. They do have the ability to cloak if you want to, but then you're going to have no healing because Dark Cloak, and you're going to have to run at least Rapid Regen, which isn't a bad skill. It's really good, but I don't think it's enough to keep you alive on its own. You could do Healing Ward, but that kind of sucks too. So yeah. And the burst on Magblade is really predictable. You're going to see a Magblade come in, they're going to get close to you, and you're like, oh, Magblade has its ultimate up because it's a ranged class that is now in my face. Cool, that means it's time to block or start dodge rolling or turtle up, do whatever I need to not get smacked by this Nightblade's burst. So, really predictable class. It does have mobility, just like the Stamina Nightblade, but again, it's not in medium armor, so it gets less of that bonus to, dodge rolling, sprinting, all that. And then it has Cloak, which is okay if it wants it. Usually they use Dark Cloak anyway, and it has Shade. Shade's good. I like Shade a lot, but it's not enough. You could use Race Against Time, but then that's even more bar space you're taking up, and it's just rough. Magblade's in a rough spot. Next class, we have Stamina Necromancer. We'll go ahead and put Stam Necro in A. Now I know a lot of you guys can be like, why is Stam Necro A and not an S? Well, I'll tell you why. Stam Necro is really fucking good, okay? They have great AoE burst, which is always a great thing for solo play. They have absolutely ridiculous tank ability, really strong heals, good sustain, awesome passives. But the thing about them is the fact that lots of that healing comes at the expense of having to turtle up in one spot, which is not the best sometimes, with the tethers and things. Sometimes you gotta be more mobile and you lose out on a big chunk of your healing, so there's that. Which is not a major downside, but compared to some of the other things that these other classes can do, it's just a slight turnoff. And then you've got Blast Bones. It's unbelievably hard in an AoE, but it is still a little bit buggy, not anywhere near as bad as it used to be. But yeah, it's not as reliable as some other burst options due to pathing and just some silly shit. And also, the nerf, again, to Major Defile made this thing a lot less oppressive, because people aren't getting their their healing debuffed anywhere near as much as they used to, so it's a lot easier to heal through a Necromancer's damage. So, there's that. They also don't have any built-in mobility, which a lot of classes really have that problem, but Stam Necromancer, you can make up for it being at medium armor, or race against time, or any of that stuff. But there's always sacrifices you have to make. So that's just another thing that brings it down a little bit lower. And, all in all, Stam Necro is a really, really good class, and if you put it in A or S tier, it's perfectly understandable, but I think that just compared to some of the other classes, Stam Necro falls behind just a tiny little bit due to some of its minor limitations. Unlike its sad, depressing little brother, Necro. Now, I should have mentioned earlier that when it comes to these two classes specifically, and just all classes in general, I am not keeping bombing in mind either. Bombing is a cool thing, you can kill a lot of people, but I don't like to think of it as solo play. It is definitely solo play if you're a solo bomber, but I don't think it is like the traditional solo play, And besides, you're going to be using Vicious Death if you're bombing anyway, it's a proc. I'm not talking about proc builds. But bombing is its own thing. And I think Magblade and Necro are super awesome when you talk about bombing, but when it comes to just straight up, kind of brawler-esque style play, Magblade sucks, and Magic and Necro is the worst class in the game, that kind of play style. If you play Necro, you know this already. I know a lot of people that play Necro and they really love it, but I guarantee you they will tell you it is awful. For a few reasons. Those reasons being the fact that it has no good spammable. Skull is useless, the Scythe is useless, all it's got going for it is the Blast Bones. Stalking Blast Bones is, it's a really good ability, but the fact that it doesn't apply to File like the Stamina version, makes it kind of suck. They don't have any good ultimates. You can use the, the Smashy Boy, but that's an AoE circle that's just going to pop up on the ground. Half the people that you're going to try to hit with it are going to avoid it. They don't have a good stun. They've got multiple stuns. All of them are extremely situational and just hard to put people down with. You could use Clench on it, but that, pigeonholes you into a specific playstyle again. They don't have a class Execute. So, like, what do they have in their class? They have, some damage in the class, kind of. But they have no Execute, no stun, no spammable that is worth anything. And then they have good survivability. That's like it. That's all they've got going for them. They have really strong survivability. They've got really solid healing. They're really tanky, but their healing does pale in comparison to Stam Necro. So even there, it's just, what are you doing? They don't have any mobility either. It doesn't exist. So at the end of the day, you just got a turtle class that, unless you're bombing, can't really do much. This class is really strong when you pair it with procs, but even then it fucking falls behind all the other classes when it comes to building procs, and I don't know. I just feel like this class needs complete rework to be worth anything to anybody. Now, we go to Magic and Magicka Warden, and I believe Magicka Warden is a solid B tier when not built with procs. It's got really strong healing, because you can, stack up with health, and, all that fun stuff. Got a strong healing kit. It's got good survivability. It's got some really good utility skills. It's got really powerful burst ability. It's got a decent spammable, but again, it does not have an Execute. It does not have a reliable stun, but it does have Arctic Wind or Arctic Blast, whatever it's called. It's a really good skill, and that kind of carries Warden in general. And with that skill really definitely allows Mag Warden to get away with a lot of things that other Mag classes just can't. It's a really tanky ability, and it makes the class feel really tanky. And it's a good class, okay? It's definitely a good class, but again, not having an execute and not having any really good dots, I guess the infection is a decent dot, but that's kind of your only one, and just one dot isn't going to give you enough pressure. So yeah, they've got mobility through the Bird of Prey or whatever, and they've got really strong burst, AoE burst, but at the end of the day, they just have a really hard time actually securing kills in comparison to some other classes that do have built-in executes and whatnot. So I think that Mag Warden is a good class, but it's definitely not great. And just give it an execute, this class will be nuts, but otherwise, it's kind of hard to hit the aim. Your burst, which, you know, it's easy if you have thumbs, but sometimes it just, people have, you know, they're rolling a million times, they're just out of range of the things, you know, AoE or whatever, because the game's targeting is kind of fucked. So they just won't get hit by your big boy burst, and then you're just kind of turtling up waiting for an ultimate. And, you know, that's a problem with a lot of classes, but it's a problem that really brings them down. And I feel like that's one of the problems that Mag Warden, not built with procs, has to deal with. So yeah, that's it for Mag Warden. Now let's move on to Stamina Templar. Stamina Templar, I think, is just as rough as Magicka Templar. I guess you could technically put Stamplar in B, because Stamplar is basically all the same problems of Magplar, but with slightly better healing. Because, you know, Vigor is a king of a skill. But, yeah, it doesn't benefit at all from the high health meta that we're in right now, while pretty much every other, well, not every other, but most other stamina classes can definitely utilize. It has no real burst, again, because we don't have Purifying Light, or Power of the Light. Burning Light gutted. Let's see, what else? I mean, yeah, like, all in all, Stamplar doesn't really have any burst. Jabs is a super strong skill, but you have to go full send to kill anybody with it. You know, lots of other classes, they have, you know, if you're using, like, Dizzy Swing or something, and that's a quick smack. Once it hits for all of its damage. But when you have a channeled ability as your primary damage, you have to really focus. You have to put all of your fucking, every fiber of your being into your offense to actually kill somebody. And that can put Stamplar in a real rough situation when it comes to outnumbered, because you have to get the time to have, you know, 3 or 4 full seconds to get a couple sets of jabs off on someone to kill them. There are ways to get around that, kinda. You know, you can build a little bit different, but when it comes to just like the typical Stamplar playstyle, it's so much more difficult to play than it used to be, and it was already pretty difficult to play solo. Lots of people will say it was a really easy class, just, you know, from an outside perspective, but it really wasn't, and it's now just doing not any better, just a lot worse than it was. And it's healing, by the way, probably the worst healing out of any stamina class. Like, you've got Necro, which has a lot of supplemental healing, and then 8% bonus to healing when they've got an effect on them. So they get the same healing bonus that Stamplar gets with a lot more healing abilities. Stamina Nightblade gets the ability to automatically crit any rally they want to with the bonus to crit healing, which is a lot more useful than you'd think. They also have the ability to use Dark Cloak if they want to. Again, I don't really think that's the best move, but it's a good skill. Kinda. And again, they can benefit from the high health meta if they want to. And then you've got Wardens who get Major Mending, DKs that get Major Mending. Both of those have strong supplemental heals, and they can benefit from the high health meta. You got StamSorc, who doesn't have any healing buffs, but does have a lot of really nice supplemental healing abilities, as well as mobility and strong utility. So it just kind of, everything outshines Stamplar. I feel like Stamplar is definitely the shittiest Stam class in the game. So now talking about the best Stam class in the game, we're going to look at Stamina Warden, who is definitely an S tier class. The thing about Stamina Warden is that it's nuts. It's just nuts, okay? It's got Subterranean Assault, AoE Burst, hits like a truck. It's what, is it poison or disease damage? Either way, it can apply an extra effect for more pressure. It hits twice, so that helps out Warden sustain. They've got ridiculously high healing because they do get major mending if they build into getting it. They get Arctic Blast, which we already know is fucking busted skill. They get Vigor, they get Rally if they want it, they get Strong Sustain through some of their passives, through their Bull Netch. They get Mobility because of their Bird. They also have reduced snare effectiveness on them, which, again, just another one of those things adding to the mobility. So this tank can be built in, this class can be built in a lot of different ways. It can be built tanky, it can be built quick, it can be built bursty. It can be built in a lot of different ways. Really good build diversity on this thing if you want it, but most people are just gonna, stack 40k HP and just slowly dizzy swing you to death with, 4 or 5k weapon damage, because they can do that. And they all Malakath, all that good stuff. They can do procs if they want to, but either way, this class has everything going for it. Has every fucking useful buff in the game if they want it. Good ultimates. The healing ultimate is pretty strong. It's cheap as shit. The Arctic Blast or whatever, what the hell is that? Sleet Storm, the other one. Whatever. That ultimate is actually really fucking good still. And then if they do Dawnbreaker, you basically have 2 ults hitting at the exact same time if you Dawnbreaker into a sub. So you can delete multiple people at once, just 2 or 3 people real quick. This is such a strong class for solo play that there's really no competition. Stamblade is good, but in a different way. They're both, these are the only 2 classes you're going to see in S, okay? The other 2 we're not going to hit S, obviously. But these 2 classes are both very, very strong in 2 different ways. Nightblade is fast, it's hard, it's quick, it's really good at decimating that one single target and getting out of danger really quickly and effectively. While Stamina Warden is the class that says, go ahead, hit me, I can take it. And then they, just return all this damage. You just fucking sit there, tank it out, and do God's work. That's what it is. That's Stam Warden. It's super strong, super fun to play. And if you haven't tried it out, try it out now. Before it gets nerfed, because in a patch or 2, it's gonna get shit on. I guarantee it. Next up, we have StamDK. B tier. So StamDK has good healing because of DK passives and major mending on demand. Really solid, especially if you can sustain being able to pop your Igneous whenever you want it. It's got good dot pressure if you want to build that way. I guess we can count Malakath in this, because Malakath I don't really think is a big problem like the procs are, but Malakath.dk super strong. It's really good at getting a lot of damage into some people over time. Like a few people you can do your Noxious Breath into a couple people, and that'll actually tick respectably hard, especially on squishier targets, and it's really good at figuring out who in the group is the one you want to focus on. Venomous Claw, super powerful dot with and without Malakath, so that, just building .dk is super strong, super fun as well. They do not really have any good supplemental burst like some of these other classes, which I feel like is one of the things that definitely brings them down. They have the best burst ultimate in the game with Take Flight, but that's just it. If you don't kill somebody with your Take Flight combo, 9 times out of 10, that person is going to be just fine until you get another Take Flight. It's really hard to put people down that know what they're doing without a good Take Flight combo on a DK, because when you use Take Flight, it does its damage, and then it's done. It's not like using Dawnbreaker, which has a strong dot that tooltips just as high as the initial hit. It's not like using a Crescent Sweep that hits people really hard and then has again a dot. It's not a multi-useful ultimate. It is for burst, and that is it. If they don't die to your burst and they heal through it, you're pretty much fucked until you get another ultimate. Now, if you have people that are dying to your dots and your dizzy swings, that's awesome. You're gonna find those people. You're gonna find them all over the place, and you're gonna be able to kill a lot of people doing that. So, it's got that going. StamDK is respectably tanky. It's definitely not the tankiest class out there. It's got the solid healing. They can use the health-based healing meta if they build a lot of health and then use Green Dragon Blood. It's not as effective as any of the other health-based heals in the game, but it exists and it is a viable option. And it also gives you an extra 8% healing taken, so it's just another modifier to all of your healing. So StamDK has really good stat-based heals compared to the other classes. Like if they're building not 40k HP and they're just building like weapon damage heals, StamDK is probably the king of just healing when it comes to non-cheese bullshit, you know? They don't have any mobility, but that's okay, because again, they can sit there, they can tank through your shit, they can heal themselves. I mean, procs are obviously going to put them under a lot of strain. They don't have a cleanse, but, you know, it is what it is. That's just kind of the meta of the game right now. But all in all, StamDK, really good class. Not the best, but really good. And then finally, also in B tier, got StamSorc. StamSorc is a super cool class, really fast, really mobile, because they have minor expedition from their armor buff. You can get major expedition in a lot of different ways on Stam characters, so you can typically be going super fucking quick. They have really strong utility skills with things like Ball of Lightning if they want to use it. They could have a non-blockable stun with Streak if they want to use it. Dark Deal for really good sustain. Got solid healing through things like Dark Deal and, you know, Rally, Vigor, Crit Surge, all that good stuff. So it's really easy to just kite things, heal yourself, get a lot of healing when you're in the fight thanks to Crit Surge. They get a lot of upfront burst because of some of their passives, like the passive that makes them do 10% more damage, or you know 10 to 1% based on enemy's health. So that just amplifies their their initial upfront burst. They're the one class that could just dizzy swing the shit out of you, and that's all they'll do, and it'll still kill you because they just get so many damage modifiers in their class passives. Those dizzy swings are gonna hurt harder, hurt worse than anyone else's. So yeah, it's really strong with the offense. It doesn't have any kind of good supplemental burst unless you want to count the little Daedric Dagger ability. That's kind of wacky, and I don't think it's the best. What else do they have? They don't have any strong class ultimates. I mean, I guess they have the Atronach, which is kind of good for staying alive, using his line of sight. Other than that, they're pigeonholed into using Dawnbreaker, which I guess is another problem with Stamplar that I didn't even mention, because Empowering Sweep used to be kind of good, now it's useless. And, they're all stuck on Dawnbreaker, which is fine. Dawnbreaker's a solid ultimate. It's a really good ultimate, and pretty much every Stam class uses it, except for a few exceptions. But yeah, StamSorc, again, really good class, but just not amazing. Doesn't have AoE burst, doesn't have supplemental burst at all. No really good dots, but it's good at staying alive. It's good at being mobile, getting in and out of situations, kind of like a Stamblade would, except for without the same killing power that a Stamblade has. And yeah, that is it. That is it for my my tier list. Those are my rankings. Again, this is all my opinion. This is all objective. This is how I feel about it. And I know a lot of people are going to disagree. A lot of people are going to give me a lot of shit for it, but that's okay. That's what this game is for. Everyone has their own opinions. Everyone likes their own classes. Everyone thinks differently about stuff. And, that's good. I love that. I love that everyone can be unique. Everyone can make certain classes work that I can't. Some people can take a Magblade and be an absolute unkillable demigod, and I can't. I'm just not good at the class, so that's probably why I think it's a C, But objectively, this is what I think, this is how I feel, and that is it. That is the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, give me your thoughts, give me your emotions, give me your opinions down in the comments below. Tell me I'm wrong, tell me I'm an idiot, tell me I'm right, agree with me, do whatever you want to. But yeah, that is it, okay? I'm gonna head out now. I love you guys. Catch me on twitch.tv/KuroYukiESO for live gameplay. And hit that sub button, alright? I love you guys. Have a great day.